So I have the pleasure of closing out this conference. I have personally just really enjoyed the last day and a half, and just the discussion, the questions, the information shared. I think this was really wonderful. And we started a few years ago closing our Youth-Nex conferences with a call to action. And this is an individual call to action. We are not going to tell you what to do. But what we want is for everybody to take a moment and reflect back on the last day and a half. Think about something you heard, something you learned, something that made you think differently, something that you are thinking about in relation to what you do outside of this room. And what I'm going to ask is that you take a minute and reflect on what are you going to commit to doing differently when you leave this space and you go back into the space that brought you into this room today, that the work that you do that made you say, I want to come to this. Take a moment, just think individually. There are Post-it notes on the table. I encourage you to write it down if you can. When we write things down and put them somewhere, that helps us commit to doing them. So I encourage you to do that. And then I will ask folks who are willing to share out in a minute. But I'm going to give you a moment to think. All right. I'm glad that I use a lot of, that when I teach, I do a lot of independent think and talk time, because otherwise it's actually incredibly uncomfortable to stand in front of a room full of people while they are silent. Would anybody be willing to share out what their commitment is, what they're willing to do differently or planning to do differently? Great. Can we run a mic over?
One thing so desire and important to me is public policy formulation, procedure, analysis at state level. What are the procedures, how it works? The YMCA, their youth wing, they're working on youth and government. I'll be able to collaborate with my colleague to say, what would we do so that these teenagers that come to the center, to the organization, they would include that in their procedures, in their activities, that would empower them and that would inform them that, hey, this is how it works at our state level. This is what our legislature does in order to come up with a public policy and who it is intended for. How they're going to roll it out, and that, information dissemination, how it's going to work. So I'll maybe talk to her and see how those kids would learn that. And that would be a tool they can arm themselves in charting their destination.
Thank you. Wonderful. Anyone else? Someone back there?
Hi, my name is Christine. I'm with Virginia Partnership for Out of School Time, VPost. We're the state network for after school and summer learning programs in Virginia. One thing I think that was a big aha for me that I'm taking back with me is we've talked a lot about the need for digital literacy with youth. We've also talked about the need that we need to scaffold that. And I work with the grown-ups that work with those youth, and I've just been thinking, wow, I don't think that out-of-school time educators, after-school educators, the grown-ups in the youth's lives, parents have those tools. So how can we provide some supports around that, some professional development around that to help them actually enact some of the practices behind this research for being prepared to provide that support around digital literacy.
Great. Terrific. Thank you. Anyone else? I see Aisha over here.
Hi, everyone. My name is Aisha Griffith. I am a professor at UIC, and I work with folks who work with young people. And I've been trying to think about how to set the climate to think about the positive aspect of digital world. And so I'm going to steal a few things. So yesterday, someone mentioned about affirming apps or apps that they are creating that are affirming apps. So maybe an interactive activity where my students are looking for what are the affirming apps that people use specifically during the transition to high school, which Gael mentioned, and also stealing that chart that Gael showed us, and then having them finding affirming spaces and mapping it on that. So it's very specific, but like, how do I set a stage where those are the conversations we have?
Love that, thank you. And please, we welcome you all to steal from the content that you hear. We don't consider that stealing. We consider that dissemination, so. And I will say that all panels are recorded and will eventually go up on our website, so please do share that information with others. Anyone who wants to share a final commitment? Yeah, Jessica over there.
This has been really great, and Shireen had to leave, but it was a lot of aha moments where, like, the practical so what, and it's like a lot of things are asking about ideas about data and youth and making it youth friendly and youth accessible. And I mean, Shireen and I and so many people in this room do a lot of youth participatory action research, and it's like that is just such a great tool to integrate more youth voices into policy, into research. And so I think UVA and Youth-Nex specifically has such a small but mighty community of researchers, of undergraduate students, of community members who are doing YPAR work, but how can we scale this up so that people on these regional and national levels know that YPAR can be used in such a specific way. So something Shireen and I talked about is just making those connections and seeing how can we like continue these conversations so it's not left in this room.
Yeah. Great, thank you. So I'm also excited to note one of the commitments 2 years ago at our conference, one of the sort of pushes that was made by youth on the panel was it's not just about youth voice, it's about funding youth voice and funding youth's ideas. And so my commitment at that time was, as the director of Youth-Nex, I said that I was committing to finding funding to start a youth project fund. And so I am excited to now announce that we are launching a youth project fund. So as I said, that came out of the panel, and we've been working. We got some seed funding for it, and we've been working to implement it. Turns out it is more difficult in times, or not in times, I should say, within institutions to actually get money to minors. But we are working out all the kinks. And so this program is going to empower young people between the ages of 12 and 18 in the greater Charlottesville-Albemarle region to launch impactful projects by providing financial support and resources and connecting them with mentorship and networking opportunities. So we're excited to see those amazing ideas that are coming forth in the proposals, and we will be sharing more details soon about the fund and how to apply, so look for that. I will also note, I loved the conversation about the civic, what do you learn about how the government works in civics? So I will put out there, I have in the past written in support of, and I am a proponent of lowering the voting age to 16. I think the science of adolescence supports that in terms of cognitive development. And I think that when we think about how do you learn how to be an active citizen, it would be better if young people could begin to engage in that official, formal political process and voting when many of them are still at home with parents and not, and therefore, get the support and scaffolding. It could be done through schools, right, through high school. So anyway, just a little push. I was trying to wait till maybe the delegate was back in the room, but I will encourage that also. I think that that's a way to really bring youth voice and empower. Please, we have a feedback form. QR code there. It's also on your tables. We ask that you please do complete the feedback. We do use this. One of the things that we did, for example, was increase the amount of interaction and discussion time at this conference from last conferences based on feedback, so please do give us feedback. We look forward to using it to plan the next conference. And with that, thank you all. Thank you all so much for being here. Thank you to TYDE for co-sponsoring this conference with Youth-Nex, and we are excited to see where we all go from here. So, thank you. Give yourselves a round of applause. Thank you to all the young people who have shared their expertise with us, and have a good rest of your week.